My Lords, Mr. Secretary-General, my Lord Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, I'm quite touched by that, actually. I'm sure I'll have a much more healthy 2016 after that toast. Not only do I have the tremendous privilege of being your shipping minister, but I'm also, as of Boxing Day, the Yorkshire Floods envoy. So it's actually a great relief to come to an event where Wellington boots are not de rigueur. And indeed, if you're ever a minister involved in anything like that, always make sure that your Wellington boots are nice and mucky. Otherwise, they'll try and work out where you bought them and how much you paid for them. I was actually quite relieved when I arrived tonight that there was no demonstration protesting against my arrival. I don't know if any of you heard last year the EDS, the Defence Industries dinner, which is actually here in this very room tomorrow night. There was a massive protest by people who seem to think that we shouldn't have strong defences in our country, that we shouldn't have submarines carrying the very best in weapons that could act as a deterrent. I guess the sort of people who in 1812 were saying that HMS Victory should set sail without cannonballs on board to put in their cannons. But I was not worried about pacifist or anti-war protesters. I was worried about animal rights protesters because, unfortunately, I made a very big faux pas last week at transport questions. What I meant to say was, and we were talking about how we could address the issue of emissions from the aviation industry. What I meant to say, there was more than one way to skin a cat. What I actually said is there's more than one way to kill a cat. And the opposition, including Lillian Greenwood, sat there grinning, thought this was very amusing. What I couldn't quite understand was why it is suddenly such an offence to kill a cat when it's not an offence to skin a cat. But I made matters worse by putting the record straight, say, well, can I put on the record, I've never actually skinned or killed a cat, but I have skinned lots of rabbits, and I imagine the principle is the same. Anyway, I'm very grateful to Tom for that kind introduction and his inspiring speech, and I was listening very carefully to what he had to say, and indeed to the UK Chamber for inviting me to speak here this evening. As the Minister for Shipping and Ports, it's heartening to see so many people here tonight who support the UK's maritime industries, and none more so than our host, the UK Chamber of Shipping. The Chamber is a constant champion for this industry, supporting huge positive changes in our approach to British maritime over the past year. One of the great privileges of becoming Minister for Shipping and Ports is seeing so much of the UK's maritime sector firsthand. Since May, I've had the privilege of visiting many of the UK's ports and seeing investment bearing fruit. I participated in the handover of search and rescue from the military at Prestwick to Her Majesty's Coast Guard, where the ageing Sea Kings will be replaced by new state-of-the-art helicopters. And I've seen the huge media interest when some of the newest and largest container ships dock at UK ports. Who would have thought that the photo of a container ship would be spread across 2 pages of the Daily Telegraph? I've also celebrated the Queen's naming of the Britannia at Southampton, and everything I've seen has shown the continuing importance and vitality of our maritime sector. I pay tribute to everyone who is keeping the UK in the forefront of the global maritime economy. Yet we all know that both shipping and ports are facing challenges. Mass migration is one of them. The government wants to see an end to the loss of migrants' lives at sea. Yet the whole world must be grateful for rescues performed by merchant shipping, without which the death toll will be much higher, and we would like to see an end to cross-channel disruption. I can reassure you all here tonight that across Her Majesty's Government, we are working to address these challenges both domestically and internationally. Yet these are not the only challenges facing shipping and ports. The Chancellor has said that we see a dangerous cocktail of new threats emerge to unsettle the global economy. The effects are already being felt by sectors represented here tonight. The fall in commodity prices, a glut in capacity, changing energy imports, and all these are driving low shipping rates and affecting business throughout our ports. The slowdown of growth in emerging economies and general overcapacity in the world economy mean that we face a challenging 2016. Yet the UK still remains a rare island of economic stability. Our economy is growing, and this shelters us from risk from abroad. And I'm glad that the maritime industry has been working so closely with the government so that we can face these risks together. I'm confident that we will see them through and keep the maritime sector growing. Because in September we published our Maritime Growth Study. It was a project overseen by Lord Mount Evans and supported by many people from industry. The Maritime Growth Study examined the strengths and weaknesses of the sector and its opportunities for growth. As a result of the study, in November I sat for the first time as chairman of the new Ministerial Working Group for Maritime Growth. The working group consists of ministers and representatives from across our maritime and marine industries. And we discussed how we can attract investment and create growth across the sector. The Transport Secretary and I will use this working group to take action on the issues identified as falling to the government in the Maritime Growth Study. At our first meeting, we discussed two main points. Firstly, the importance of apprenticeships. I'm delighted that the Maritime Trailblazer for Skilled Debt Ratings is now approved. Thank you. And that a further 3 are in development for maritime mechanics, caterers, and onboard service professionals. Many of those here tonight will already have significant training programs in their businesses, and indeed, I was privileged to meet some of those trainees here today. So I urge you to consider how these can be structured as formal apprenticeships. On the subject of training, last week we published the government's Transport Infrastructure Skills Strategy. This strategy will help create 30,000 apprenticeships over the next 5 years. It will ensure the right mix of apprenticeships are on offer, and it will meet the challenge of new technology by reskilling the existing workforce. In addition to what is set out in the skills strategy, we remain committed to continuing to support our support for maritime training, including SMART, throughout the lifetime of this Parliament. And as recommended in the Maritime Growth Study, work is underway in commissioning revised seafarer projections and a SMART review to inform future policy. But while the government can ensure cadets and ratings are trained, we rely on the industry to provide places for them at sea. So I urge those who can provide such places to do so. In the meantime, I'm delighted that the statistics that we released last week show an increase in the number of UK seafarers. But I also recognise that this is only a first step, and we must redouble our efforts to stimulate growth in our maritime workforce. But the second subject we discussed in the new Ministerial Working Group for Maritime Growth was about growing entrepreneurship in the sector. Of course, the maritime and marine sectors have many innovative SMEs. We have world-leading maritime engineering companies and skills, and our ports are home to many businesses. But there is always room for more, whether that means more homegrown ship owners, more innovative business services, or more new design and technological concepts. We need them if the UK is to keep its world-leading position and deliver growth. Once again, the Maritime Growth Study offers some ideas. It recommends that the industry should establish a single promotional body, responsible for creating a collective strategy for growth and for identifying objectives and targets. It is, of course, the industry to decide how to take this forward, but government stands willing to play its part in support of this important task. The study also recommends that we place some of the services that the government provides to the sector, particularly the shipping register, on a more commercial basis. Already, the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency has taken action to separate the operation of the UK Ship Register from its other functions. And we appointed a new director of the register, Simon Barham. Could you stand up, Simon, so we can all see you? Simon's an ex-Bibby man, so he brings a wealth of commercial experience. He formally joined us later this month to help with a more responsive and commercially orientated operation. The MCA is also pursuing a major efficiency programme to improve the way it delivers its ship survey and inspection services. The agency is determined to make whatever changes are necessary to support the industry. So I'm delighted that the UK Ship Register has an increase in gross tonnage of over 7%, but we will not stop there. We have already started examining the case of putting the register and perhaps other functions with the MCA on an entirely different basis. with more commercial freedoms, and I know that many of you from across our maritime sector will be fully involved in this work, and I look forward to working with it to develop the best outcome for the UK. So in conclusion, this is both an exciting and challenging time for the UK's maritime sector, a sector vital to supporting our economic well-being and delivering global growth. But as I finish, let me say this. The challenge before us now is to see these plans through. No industry grows by standing still. If we are to deliver long-term, sustainable economic growth, we must be prepared to challenge comfortable assumptions and long-held orthodoxies. So allow me to confirm tonight the government's determination to deliver the changes recommended in the Maritime Growth Study. And I hope that 2016 will also be the year the industry does likewise. So if you'll be upstanding, the toast is... The toast is the UK seafarers and UK shipping.
The UK seafarers and UK shipping.
Thank you very much.